to touch on something that I had mentioned in my story behind Tempting Fate video. I had mentioned in that video a little bit about pantsers versus plotters or planners, whichever you'd like to call it. And I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on that and explain what is a pantser and what is a plotter. And if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, you can either go back to that video or just check out this one and you'll get a little more info. So, when it comes to writing, there are primarily two categories. Now, I'm sure it's a spectrum and that there are people who, do more of one than the other, but do a little bit of each. Everybody's different, right? So, things are going to be a little bit different. But in general, there are two main categories of writers. There are people who write by the seat of their pants. So there is very little, if any, planning involved. They just kind of see where the story and the characters take them. Those are called pantsers because they fly by the seat of their pants. And then there are plotters or planners, and those are people who will outline and will figure out exactly all the different plot points and exactly what their characters are going to be doing. They know exactly how the story is going to progress step by step by step. And those would be called plotters or planners. So, like I said, two main categories. I'm sure there's a spectrum in between. For me, I am a pantser and I see where the story is going to take me, see where the story is going to take my characters. I will usually have an idea of where I want the story to end up or what I think might happen along the story, but things can change. So, for example, in Searching for Home, the character of Addie, I had a very different path in mind for her when I started writing that story. I was like, oh, I think this would work out well. That's actually why I had incorporated the character of Maggie because their lives were going to intertwine a lot more than they ended up. Of course, they'd still affected each other and they did become friends and whatnot, but their path was going to be very different than what it ended up as. And for me, it's half the fun because my characters become real to me. They have their own personalities, they have their own quirks, they have what is going to feel like them, sound like them, act like them. And so if I had tried to get my original idea to fit the character of Addie, I think it would have felt insincere because that wasn't who she was. That wasn't what matched her personality and her history and what she wanted out of life. So I had to listen to my characters. At least I felt like I had to listen to my characters so that I could see what resonated with them and what would actually be true to who they were. And the story ended up very different than what I had originally intended. I have tried being a plotter or a planner. Actually, when my second novel, Accepting Fate, I had mentioned that that one was written for NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month. And the way that that challenge had worked was that you could not write any content until November 1st. So I couldn't actually do any writing until November 1st. But I wanted to write, I wanted to, start that story. So I started outlining and planning because that is allowed. You're allowed to do planning and, figure out what you're going to write in November ahead of time. So I tried outlining and figuring out, okay, what's going to happen with these characters? How is the story going to progress? And I got through my outline that was supposed to be the bulk of the story in like a quarter of the story. So work out well for me. And again, it doesn't, not only is the process awkward for me because having to plan it all out, it's like, I just want to be writing. But also, like I said, things start feeling not quite right. Like, is that really how the character would act, what they would say? So it didn't work for me. It works very well for some people, for many people. I can see in certain genres, it is perhaps a better fit. For example, I write women's fiction, and I'll go a little bit more into what that means in another video. But in women's fiction, it's a lot about character development. So I'm able to let the characters tell me where they want to go. While in other certain genres, like mysteries, perhaps thrillers, suspense, where there are a lot of clues that need to be dropped or a lot of little, um, you know, hints as to what might happen or you reasoning behind certain actions, it may be a lot more necessary to do more plotting, more planning ahead of time so you can see how those steps are going to build up to the final climax and conclusion. So I am fortunate that my current genre is suitable for being a pantser. I'm sure that either certain authors' personalities or just their genre that they write is more conducive to the plotting and planning. But I think everybody is different. Every writer is different. Every person is different, right? And we all have to do what's right for us. So, a little bit into the difference between the two and how some may be a better fit for others than the other one. But whatever works for you is the way to go. So if you have a story to tell, don't let a certain procedure dictate if it's something you're going to be doing or not. Have a great day, everyone. I will catch you next time.